Hey guys, Zomfox here, and today it is time for the Week 3 2025 UFL Power Rankings. Now, this past week is in the books, and well, we've got three 2-0 teams, three 0-2 teams, and then a pair of 1-1 teams. We kind of know a lot more of each of these teams, their strengths and weaknesses, and especially some of those teams near the bottom and near the top, we kind of know that there's really no super complete team outside of one so far through 2 weeks. And again, it's been a pretty interesting first 2 weeks so far, but week 3 is when we're going to start seeing some real matchups, as there's some teams that have question marks regarding who they've played. As you all can probably guess who the number 1 and number 2 teams are in the Power Rankings, and neither of those two teams have, let's just say, played anyone that's considered good so far. So it's a pretty tough one to call, but we're also going to be looking at each team's to QB or not to QB, right? The play on that famous saying. And what that means is looking at each team's main starter and saying, should he be their QB or should he be benched or replaced? So without further ado, let's get started with number 8, the Houston Roughnecks. Look, the meme last year was the best offense in the league thanks to Curtis Johnson. They have lived up to that meme this year. They have put up the least amount of points on the season of any team. Look, there's one other team in the Brahmas who have yet to put up double-digit points in a game, but they've put up more points than the Roughnecks have through 2 weeks. That's embarrassing. Again, not putting up double-digit points is insane, especially when you consider the fact that it's just pitiful. Like, let's just call it like it is. This week really showed how bad Houston is. We'll get to Arlington and how they played when we get to Arlington, but I guess it's a bit of a spoiler. Arlington tried to lose this game. They did everything in their power to hand this to the Roughnecks, and the Roughnecks said, nah, we're good. Just like the Brahmas game last year, the Roughnecks were handed a victory on a silver platter, and they just said they don't want it. They snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. Arlington played an awful game, and Houston played even worse. They had this many good drives. One. In fact, that's the total amount of good drives Anthony Brown has had at quarterback. I mean, this team is so pitiful. They have yet to put up even 250 yards of total offense in a game. Their third down percentage was horrific, 25% this weekend. It's just insane. This team is so bad. They have like no ground game outside of their quarterbacks. It's awful. They're the worst team in the league. Like the Stallions last year, they have to prove that they're not. Because some people want to put like the Brahmas at 8 because of how bad they got blown out. Look, the Roughnecks have to prove that they're not the worst team because they already were last year, and now this year, off to a bad start. Not much more to say about the Roughnecks. They're the worst team in the league. Now, Anthony Brown to QB or not to QB, as you can all guess, the answer is not to QB. Easiest not to QB in the entire league. Anthony Brown through 2 weeks has had one good drive. You eliminate that good drive, his already horrific stats plummet even more. You're losing like another 30 passing yards. You're losing your one touchdown. I mean, bro, this guy through 2 games has 200 yards passing on 46. Yes, 46 completion percentage. That is insane. 3 interceptions, a sub 40 passer rating. I mean, like, look, for how bad Henderson looked this weekend in the 2 drives he still had more rushing yards than Anthony Brown. So you can't even really say that Brown is at least, picking up the slack on the ground game because Henderson's been a better runner. So it's just like, right now, the worst quarterback in the league is Anthony Brown. Like, look, Brahmas fans might want to complain about Kellen Mond. Mond would be an upgrade over Anthony Brown. Anthony Brown has shown basically nothing. Again, giving you one good drive. Dude, and even then, that one good drive was not as good as T. Will's good drive last week, or not as good as E.J. Perry's good drive last week, or a couple of the ones he had this past weekend. Anthony Brown has been the worst quarterback in the entire league, really. And that's including guys like Alex Magoo for how bad he played in week 1, Danny Etling for how bad he's played in a couple weeks. Brown has been the biggest disappointment of a starting quarterback in this league this season. Well, biggest disappointment would be Magoo, but biggest failure overall has been him so far. He needs to step it up, especially when you have a guy like Jalen McClellan sitting as your emergency QB3. That's a guy that should be starting, and instead he's QB3 behind Anthony Brown. Like, number 8, Roughnecks, not to QB Anthony Brown. Number 7 is the Brahmas. The other team that has yet to put up double-digit points in a game, which, again, is a horrid stat line, but at least they've put up 9 points both weeks. This is bad. Like, this game against St. Louis was bad. I mean, Jacob Saylor's just destroyed him, Manny Wilkins. I know there's some people complaining about the refs, blah, 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 blah. Look, refs are not the reason you lost this game. You lost this game because you just weren't as good as the Battlehawks. Like, we all know that. So far, points allowed, for how bad the Roughnecks have been, the Brahmas are the worst team in the league in that regard. They've already allowed over 50 points. They're on pace to allow 250-plus points this season, which would be horrific. And even on offense, they're one of the weakest teams at 231 yards per game. That is the third worst in the league. Again, this week in St. Louis, they got outgained by essentially 100 yards total. Third down percentage, they were worse than St. Louis. Not by a ton, but by a decent margin. 1 of 3 on fourth downs, of course. Red zone inefficiency, going 1 of 3 in the red zone is not what you want to see. Just wasn't good. And again, St. Louis didn't even play a perfect game. Now, San Antonio's defense was better than they were in week 1 for whatever that's worth. I mean, they were able to get, some TFLs and all that, but yeah, it wasn't great. I mean, let's call it what it was. San Antonio did not look good in this game. They just looked a bit better. But the fact is that a lot of people who are saying Houston should be above San Antonio aren't realizing that Arlington played poorly. It wasn't Houston's defense was this great unit as much as it was Arlington hurting themselves. But San Antonio, this is bad. I mean, this was a massive disappointment so far. The most disappointing team in the league is San Antonio. And again, it's like I said multiple times heading into the season. This 4-game road stretch, it's to the point where you can almost write off San Antonio. An 0-2 start when you still have 2 more road games is insanely daunting. Remember, they have 8 total games left. And because of their home field situation, only 4 of those are home games. So they've still got 4 more road games on their schedule as a whole, and they've got 2 more on the road before they even get to play a home game. So this is an awful start for San Antonio. Number 7, the Brahmas, 0-2, and they're clearly worse than the other 0-2 team. To QB or not to QB, Kellen Mond, not to QB. I said it multiple times heading into the season. Having your backups, and yes, I know Garantano isn't with their team anymore, but heading into the season with Kevin Hogan and Jarrett Garantano as your backups was the biggest Achilles heel of this team, not counting the road schedule. Because now you're at a point where you have a quarterback that through 2 weeks ain't that guy. He is not nearly as bad as Anthony Brown, but he is not looking good. He's taking sacks. He has thrown an interception. He's not running the ball. So you have a quarterback here, again, very inaccurate. A 52% completion percentage passer, not good. 5 yards of pass, not good. So you're looking at this and you're like, is this guy really the answer? No. He so far hasn't been. But your issue is that your current backup, I believe, is Hogan. I think the guy they signed is the 3rd string. So you're going to Kevin Hogan as your backup, which, yikes. But the answer is not to QB. Kellen Mond has not shown you that he's a starting quarterback at this level. Again, there's always 2 sides to a story, but there's a reason why the Vikings just got rid of him like that despite drafting him relatively high in the 3rd round. We're seeing that in the UFL through 2 weeks. He's just not looking to be that guy. Remember, this is a team that had a really solid roster on offense, but so far it just hasn't clicked. Even the ground game with Anthony McFarland hasn't clicked right, and part of that is because of your quarterback, so not to QB Kellen Mond. I think we can all agree that so far he hasn't looked good, but overall, number 7, the Brahmas. Coming in number 6, give me the Memphis Showboats. Showboats are easily the best 0-2 team right now. To put it simply, if you were to imagine any of these teams making the playoffs, you're only thinking the Showboats will. The Brahmas already look like they're out of it. The Roughnecks were never in it. But the Showboats, they look to be a legit playoff competitive team. This is a team that once again had a very, very close game. Week 1, the score didn't indicate how close the game was. This score does. Memphis had a shot to win it. They had this incredible drive at the end, but then they got their field goal blocked. They were going to kick a field goal, go for 4th and 12, and go for a game-winning field goal, but it got blocked, so it got screwed over. But it was a masterful drive. They went from 8 minutes when they started to 2 minutes, and then went wrong. It's to the point you could argue, I'm not saying this, but you could argue that Memphis was the better team this day. Memphis did put up 50 more yards of offense than the defenders. They've had both a lot of penalties, but about the same. They had more first downs, 3rd down percentage. They were worse, but not by a ton. Biggest issue was red zone inefficiency, though. 1 of 4 in the red zone is what really cost them. DC was not efficient either at 1 and 3, but that was what really hurt them. If they would have just been better in the red zone, but we did see the offense improve. The offense still wasn't great, but the offense improved under Ken Wisenhunt. EJ Perry got all the snaps at quarterback, which is what we wanted to see, and so he did look better than in week 1. Again, he didn't look great, but he looked better. The ground game still needs improvement, right? The Prince and Capote combo has so far not been insane. Again, Prince, stat-wise, 9 for 44, even minus 16. He put up a solid enough performance, all things considered. Not like insane, but solid enough. But Capote, no. It's just the offense needs to improve. The defense, you could argue, is a top 3 unit in the league right now, and you could even argue maybe like top 2, considering who they've played compared to a lot of other teams, arguably. But even then, like, look at it. It's weird because right now it's pretty much agreed that the defenses are dominating the offenses, all things considered. So far, the St. Louis offense is the only offense that's been able to actually play well back-to-back weeks. And hell, even not even back-to-back weeks, just in general of a good offensive performance. You had Michigan under Bryce Perkins in week 1, and specifically under Perkins in week 1. Arlington in week 1, St. Louis twice, and it's kind of it. No other offense has given you a really good performance. Well, Birmingham gave you what you kind of expected, but even then not good in week 2, but defense has been dominating, and even with a defensive league, the Showboats defense is easily one of the best in the league. So they come in number 6. Again, yards per game, they've been surprisingly good at 277, and they actually lead the entire league in passing yards per game, believe it or not, right now. So the offense statistically is looking better than last year. Last year, this team was dead last in basically every stat on both sides of the ball. This year, they're looking up. Most improved team for sure, but as of now, number 6. Now, coming in at their quarterback, or not the quarterback, of EJ Perry, 2 QB. Look, T will give you that really good drive last week. But the fact is, EJ Perry this week showed a lot of improvement overall. Again, he's still not looking insane, but I would say that he deserves to still be the quarterback. I could see the argument that you may want to try T Will or something, but EJ Perry is somebody who can run. Did it a decent amount this week. He has 2 touchdowns total. T Will does not have a passing touchdown. Yes, the 2 interceptions does hurt for EJ, and the completion percentage isn't as good as T Will, but again, that's because EJ played 2 weeks. T Will only played 1 week. I would say that EJ Perry has deserved to be the starter for at least another week or 2. Again, this is the lowest ranking 2 QB of all of them, in a sense that I could see the argument of not to QB and just to go with T Will at the starter. But I think that EJ Perry showed this week that he can do well. They just need to kind of fix the ground game. I feel like this is more of an issue of not having a ground game than it is on EJ Perry himself. Because again, if you don't have a ground game that you can consistently get 4 yards a carry for and use play action, there's only so much you can do. So, for me, 2 QB EJ Perry. Now, number 5 is the Michigan Panthers. Panthers drop a few spots. They're the biggest droppers this week. And I think it's pretty obvious why. The offense just is not working out so far. The defense, once again, did enough to win this game. But what really hurt them was special teams, right? Let's call it like it is. They didn't lose the game because of Nolan's decision to punt. They lost this game because of bad special teams play. The muffed punt, the returns they allowed. So far, net average punting, dead last is Michigan. 25 yards of a net punt average is horrific. That means if you're punting at the 25, the opposing team's getting it at the 50. When you put it in that perspective, that's insanely bad. Field goal percentage. Guess which team is last? The Panthers. Yes, he was perfect this past weekend, 1 for 1. But only one team has missed 2 kicks so far, and that's BT Potter and the Panthers. This team's special teams screwed him over. Birmingham got so many good field positions. Yes, the drop pick 6 hurt. Yes, the offense not scoring after 2 interceptions was abysmal. Yes, the Bryce Perkins decision to throw a Hail Mary instead of run for a first down was bad. Yes, the 3rd down play after that was bad when they got 4 yards short. And then, yes, not going for it was bad. They lost this game because of special teams. The muff punt is what really hurt them, but the returns were bad. Overall, this team is number 5, clearly. Look, there's an argument to be made that you can even put Memphis above them. I know Michigan beat Memphis in week 1, but there's an argument to be made that Memphis is the better team through 2 weeks so far, just as an overall team. But for now, we're putting Michigan at 5. They just didn't look great. The defense did, but the rest of the team, no. Now, 2 QB or not QB Bryce Perkins, 2 QB with a big asterisk. I mean what I'm about to say. I mean it. If he's going to continue to not run, F it. I want to see Danny Etling out there at quarterback. I mean that. When you see a quarterback that is as dynamic as a ground game player as Bryce Perkins refuse to run. Now, yes, He has 3 times the amount of rushing yards that Etling has. Now, granted, he's ran the ball 4 times more. But every game this year, so both games, you can count almost once per drive where he has had a perfect opportunity to run the ball and gain yardage and not do it. Now, it's one thing if you're on 1st and 10, 2nd and 9, you're trying to get a 20-yard pass. But the 2nd and 8 near the end of the game, he's running to the right. He has legitimately, with how fast he is, he's getting at least 15 yards. At that situation, you do not need a touchdown. You need a first down. You need to keep the drive alive. He threw it. And he's done that a lot. I've talked about it in the streams. It feels like either doctors or coaches have told him to not run the ball. Just be a pocket passer who can scramble. That's not who Bryce Perkins is. Manny Wilkins is playing a lot more like Bryce Perkins than Bryce Perkins is. And it's not a matter of the defenses he's played. Again, this weekend, there was many opportunities. He could have ran it for significant gains and chose not to. He needs to run. If he runs, the answer is 2 QB. He is a better player than Danny Etling. But when you see somebody not utilize their strengths, it makes you not even want to watch him play. That's where I'm coming from. If he's not going to run, I'd rather have Etling out there just be Danny Etling, be the most average middle-of-the-road quarterback you can imagine. Because when you have Perkins out there and he's refusing to run, you're missing out on so much potential gain. His stats plummeted from week 1 to week 2. All things considered, his passing accuracy went down to 66%. QB or pass rating went down to 93. These are still good numbers, but they're inflated from week 1 because week 2 he did not look all that good. It's aggravating. He needs to run. If he runs, the answer is 2 QB. But if he keeps choosing not to, because it is choosing, it's not being forced because of defenses. No, he's choosing not to run. They need to do read option plays. The fact that they're barely doing them, they're doing like maybe 2 a game, is insane. That should be something that is almost per drive. Like if you get past, a first down, you don't go 3 and out. Every drive for it should have at least 1. They're not doing that. But number 5, Michigan, 2 QB with an asterisk, Bryce Perkins. Number 4, the Birmingham Stallions. They do move up. Some people argue that they should move up even higher. Basically, I've seen people argue that they are better than DC. It's just a matter of that, week 1 jitters and all that. As for the Stallions right now, yards per game allowed, pretty poor. They're still technically 3rd right now, so not good there. Yards per game on offense, they are 2nd to worst in the league. Giveaways, they have the 2nd most giveaways in the entire league at 4. Now they do have 3 takeaways, so that's good, but still. 3rd down percentage, they are on the lower half as well. So that's why I'm keeping them at 4, because their stats still pretty poor, mainly because of their offense. Through 2 weeks, the offense just doesn't look good. Defense, week 1, DC was a bad offense. Week 2, Michigan was a better offense, but still not playing at their full strength. But the defense, once again, looked really solid, all things considered. Defense looks fine, but again, statistically, not as good as you would imagine. The offense, though, has been a big question mark. And just like the team that's at number 3, the offense is a huge question mark. But for now, I'm keeping Birmingham at 4. I want to see one more week. I want to see, hopefully, Corral is the starter and see if that offense looks better. Again, we saw flashes of that good offense last year with that Deion Kane touchdown. But for now, not much for me to talk about the Stallions. I think number 4 is a solid spot for him. Number 4. Again, through 2 weeks, them and the Panthers have really had the toughest overall schedule. I think, and the DC Defenders. Those 3 teams all had the toughest schedule so far. The top 2 teams, the bottom couple teams. That's how it is so far. Number 4, Birmingham. Alex Magoo, 2 QB or not to QB? The answer is not to QB. Essentially, both quarterbacks had 1 full game. Let's call it like it is. Magoo got hurt like that, so they both played in 1 game. Corral looked better. Yes, Corral threw another interception compared to Magoo, and still at a higher passer rating, which is horrific. Corral was not sacked. Magoo was sacked 8 times. That's not because offensive line looked significantly better. That's because one of them understands how to throw the ball away. Numerous times, Corral would throw balls directly at his players' feet, would overthrow passes on purpose, or throw out of bounds. Magoo couldn't do that. We saw in this game why being able to throw the ball away is such an important skill for quarterbacks. Corral has that. Magoo did not. Yes, Magoo is a better runner. We all know that. But you're out of your mind if you think that the offense looked better under Magoo than Corral. Yes, Corral is a risk taker. He's what DC fans try to believe Te'amu is, which is a high risk, high reward type of quarterback. Except Corral actually is that. He'll throw those deep passes or he'll throw passes to guys like the Deion Kane touchdown pass. Again, pass rating wasn't good, but again, this is a guy who was coming in as the backup, right? Who just happened to come in very early. With the full time with the starters, I think he'll have a better performance. He's still going to be what he is. He's going to end the season. He's like a Jameis Winston type of quarterback. You know he's going to have a lot of interceptions, a lot of touchdowns. But he's a better quarterback than Magoo because he knows how to do the fundamental things like throwing the ball away better than Magoo. Magoo got sacked 8 times, Corral none. Like, week to week, there's just nothing to say about that's quarterbacking. That falls on quarterback above everything else with that stat. So, not to QB Alex Magoo, should QB Matt Corral. Number 3 is the DC Defenders. Kind of locked in at this 3 spot right now. I feel like they are better than Birmingham, but they're clearly not a top 2 team in the league right now, mainly due to the fact that their running game is still not looking insanely good. Now, Abram Smith did look improved from week 1. Like I said, if through 3 weeks he's not looking good, then it's concern. Seeing him improve from week 1 is good. Is he still the Abram Smith of the past? Definitely not. 3.4 average, and that's legit average, that ain't inflated. Not the greatest. Deion Jackson was basically the same exact one. Jordan Ta'amu, we'll get to him later. As for the rest of this team overall so far, right, their biggest help attributing factors to why they're winning, +4 in the turnover differential, best in the league. 3rd in points allowed at 21. And their points kicking is number 1, which is an issue because the red zone offense is non-existent. The offense is the question mark. You could make a legit case that this offense is like the 3rd worst in the league. You can make a good case for that. Obviously, Houston and San Antonio are the bottom 2. Next one, good case, it's DC. So far, it's been hard to watch this offense because it's just mistake after mistake. It's one thing to do like self-inflicted wounds like penalties and stuff. It's another thing to just look bad. That's what the issue with DC is. They're a incredible defense that is much improved, and then a offense that already wasn't great last year that somehow has gotten worse. Again, very similar to the Brahmas, as I tweeted out. Last year, the Brahmas were 2-0. They were very weak wins. They were not deserved wins. They were weak wins, like DC so far, 2 weak wins. But they transitioned those weak wins into momentum and became a great team. San Antonio and DC, a lot of parallels from last year to this year. We'll see if it ends up has that keep going. But DC, their schedule is in question in a sense that they have not played a conference opponent yet. Now, I will say they have played one of, if not the toughest schedules so far. Memphis and Birmingham is a very tough schedule to play in your first 2 games. But again, Memphis arguably outplayed them in this game, and they just kind of got lucky with a couple of nice plays here and there. McCrane did miss 1 field goal, which was very shocking. I would still say he's one of the best kickers in the league. Overall, though, DC number 3, they deserve to be in the top 3 spot. I think that 4 is a bit harsh for them to punish them for being 2-0. I understand the argument that Birmingham, week 1 jitters, different quarterback, they're a better team. As I said before, if Matt Corral had started for Birmingham, they would have beaten DC last week. I've said that, and I still stand by it, or 2 weeks ago. But I still think that right now I'm going to put DC at 3 because they're very similar to the Brahmas last year. They could get that momentum and end up winning in week 3, but we'll see. 2 QB or not QB, Jordan Ta'amu, easy not to QB. Look, I'm glad people are starting to finally, pick up what I've been throwing down for basically the last year. Ta'amu is a guy who had an incredible 2023 season thanks to having a roster around him of incredible talent. Before that, turnover machine with Tampa Bay. Only was the passing yard leader because of time played, not because of how well he played. 2024 UFL, interception leader. Was only high because he kept being the starter when he really shouldn't have been. So far this season, he's the weakest point on this team's offense. Before any of you say anything, yes, I know there were some drop passes this week. At the same time, you can also agree he missed multiple wide open gimme touchdowns. Again, like I talked about Anthony Brown, drop passes only constitute so much when you have a 46% completion percentage. You can only blame drop passes so much. At some point, you're just inaccurate. It's bad. Now, 2 TDs to 1 interception. The interception, he's doing a lot better than he was last year so far. But again, a poor passer rating at 70. He's not a running quarterback. So when you look at him and Perez, they're both pocket passer quarterbacks. Who's better? Perez. Who's safer with the ball? Perez. Who throws the ball farther downfield? Perez. Who's more accurate? Perez. So why would you have Ta'amu? I want to see a backup play for them. I want to see somebody else play for the DC Defenders. Last year, McClendon should have started a minimum of 2 games. Week 9 and 10, he should have started. Instead, they kept trotting out Teamu, and they ended up not knowing exactly how good McClendon was and traded him away. So now we got to see somebody else play, because this team with a better quarterback is a legit threat. As of now, they're a massive question mark. They might be a threat, but that offense ain't scaring anybody. And a lot of that is Teamu. So, 2 QB or not to QB, not to QB. Number 2 is the Arlington Renegades. I do have him drop a spot. Now, about what I was saying earlier. You've heard the expression, shooting yourself in the foot. This team didn't do that. They shotgunned themselves in the knee. They tried to lose this game. Whether it be the 3rd and 4 in no man's land where they would have gone for it in 4th down where they took a false start and lost 5 yards, and then were forced to do a deeper play, didn't work, and they had to punt it. Whether it be Sal Cannella getting knocked out and fumbling the ball on their best drive to that point. Whether it be a bunch of other penalties, because again, this team had 7 penalties and you felt all of them. They tried to lose this game and still won. They had 100 more yards than Houston. They were the better team by a mile. If they don't do these self-inflicted wounds, they dominate this game. Instead, they barely won by 2. Again, it took a literal last drive for Houston to do anything on offense. Perez still was a much better quarterback than pretty much anyone else this week. 70 completion percentage, 200 yards, 1 TD, 0 interceptions. Ground game, still question marks again. Day-Day Hunter, if you eliminate the 23-yard rush, not really a great game. Not a terrible one, but not great. Ballage had an okay-ish game. Again, ground game still needs some work. Points allowed, this defense has been great. Now, them in number 1, as we all know number 1 is, both these teams have played the 2 weakest teams in the league. So there is that asterisk going for both of them. So yes, that points allowed from them and number 1, obviously the St. Louis Battlehawks. Massive asterisk there. But again, the defense has been much improved from last year. Last year, this defense would have allowed a lot more points. But again, the issue with this team this week is, and really week 1, was self-inflicted wounds on offense. The amount of penalties they're taking is just aggravating. It's just play after play. You're just waiting for the next flag to be thrown. They need to pick that up. They need to get more disciplined. If this team is more disciplined, they win this game by 20. That's the truth. So if they can pick that up, it'll be better. But as of now, I think number 2 is a very solid spot for them. So number 2, the Arlington Renegades. Now, 2 QB or not QB, Luis Perez, obviously 2 QB. There's really not much to say. League leader in passing yards through 2 weeks. Again, one of the league leaders in pass rating. I believe he is 2nd in the entire league so far. Really not much to say. Again, he's Luis Perez. You know he's going to be a great quarterback for you. So not much to say. As of now, I don't think anyone would trade him. Again, we know who the number 1 quarterback is statistically so far. But in terms of consistency, we know Perez is the guy that everybody wants. So 2 QB him. Number 1, the St. Louis Battlehawks. They are number 1 in the power rankings, and they deserve it. This is not one of those times where we've seen people overrate this team a lot in the past because they're the big fan base. This is the first time in UFL's history they deserve the number 1 spot, and I mean that with respect. They deserve it. They did what Arlington couldn't. They dominated the 2 worst teams in the league. Arlington couldn't. Now, it was because they, again, shotgunned themselves in the knee, not because they were a bad team. They just tried to lose. St. Louis did not do that. They held both bad teams to under 10 points, which again, so did Arlington, but they've also scored more than 20 in both games. So far, the best offense in the league is St. Louis. Jacob Saylors is the MVP through 2 weeks. Not Manny Wilkins, Jacob Saylors. Saylors has been the best running back like he was last year. He's done it this year. So far, he's the MVP. Second would probably be Manny Wilkins. Defense, league leader. Yards per game in offense, league leaders. Third down percentage, almost 60%, league leaders. Punt return average, league leaders. Rushing yards game, league leaders. They lead the league in a bunch of stats and are up there. Turnover differential, they're up there. A lot of other stats are up there. Again, this game against San Antonio did incredibly well overall. They weren't even fully efficient on the red zone and still were able to dominate this game. Again, it's just they're the number 1 team so far because they're the most complete so far. When you play bad teams, you're supposed to dominate them. They did it. Arlington didn't. That's why they're number 1. It's as simple as that. Hakeem Butler didn't play. Again, didn't even need him. They just dominated. Now, again, they haven't played a real team yet, just like Arlington. Neither team have really played a real team. The top 3 teams all have big question marks. DC has not played a conference opponent. St. Louis and Arlington haven't played a real team yet. But again, St. Louis did what they were supposed to. They played a bad team. They crushed them. Arlington did it once, didn't do it again. So Number 1, Battlehawks. 2 QB or not QB, Manny Wilkins, 2 QB. I know some people really want to see Duggan. Through 2 weeks, Wilkins is the best quarterback in the league. Again, played bad competition, but so far he's the best. He's up there in passing yards. He is the number 1 passer rating quarterback so far, the only guy with over 100. Again, he's doing what we knew he would do and what we thought Perkins would do, and that's run the ball. Over 100 yards on the ground through 2 weeks. He is 5th in the entire league in rushing yards. He may not have a passing touchdown, but he's got not 1 but 2 rushing touchdowns. Again, yards per pass, he's beating Perez, who Perez is a really solid 7.2, but Wilkins is beating him at 9.2. So he's not just throwing all these, check downs, which again is because of the loss of Gradkowski. Like I said, losing Gradkowski was the best thing that happened to this Battlehawks team. This offense looks much better than they did last year. Number 1, it does look like having a dual threat quarterback is an upgrade over McCarron. And number 2, not having a play caller that just doesn't know how to call plays like Gradkowski did. This team looks better. And a lot of that also falls in Manny Wilkins. Again, look, people are going to try and make any excuse they can for him. Through 2 weeks, he has a 76 completion percentage. No matter who you play, that is impressive. Because again, guys like Teamu, guys like Anthony Brown, Kellen Mond, they're just missing passes. Wilkins may not be picking the right guy every time, but so far he's been the best quarterback in the league through 2 weeks. Number 1 team through 2 weeks is the Battlehawks. So that's it. So that'll do it. This has been Zom Fox. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. Think about becoming a community member for 99 cents a month. You get an exclusive video per month. You get access to 6 team emojis currently. And if you're a community hero, you get to vote on one of the games we stream every week. Again, let me know down below what your power rankings are. Do you agree, disagree with them? What about the 2 QB or not QB? Do you disagree or agree with all of them? Let me know down below. And as always, guys, have a great night.